Hey there, Scrappy friends. It's Shelly, and I am Scrappy Longstocking. I am back today to put together some pages in my Project Life album for March 2025. And in this video, I will be using Ali Edwards' Story by the Month kit from both 2025 and 2024. And I may go ahead and also grab some items out of my stash. So I've got some photos printed. I'm going to go ahead and get those cut up, and then I will put you all, well, I'm going to put you on fast forward now, but once I get those cut up, I'll go ahead and put you on fast forward and begin filming. This is my current plan for right now. I had originally started with the 6x12 insert, but I'm only going to need the 6x8 insert, and I'm just going to use a piece of cardstock for the back. And then I've got the plan here is to put the 2nd through the 8th, and I've got them all in the pockets here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, friends, I had a heck of a time with putting this week together in my Project Life album. It took almost 2 hours, and I could not get the pages in frame correctly, and I think it has something to do with how close my camera is now to the actual pages, so that when I'm looking into the camera to see if it's centered, it looks centered, but then when I go to edit it, it is not centered. So I apologize in advance that these pages are off camera for most of the video. And initially I was going to just trash the whole thing, except I wanted there to be continuity so that you all could see every week put together in March. And so that's the only reason why I edited this video, and why I went ahead and left it in, is so that there would be continuity. So I also smack my head a bunch on the camera itself, and I apologize in advance for that as well. This day I rearranged my craft room from my dining room to my guest room, and I filmed a video setting up my closet, my new craft closet, where I keep most of my craft supplies, and I am considering tossing all of that video as well, because I struggled with finding a good spot for the camera. So if you do want to see me set up the craft room up to the point where it is at now, I plan on doing some more things. Then go ahead and leave a comment below, and I'll go ahead and make the effort to put the video together and edit it, and then go ahead and do a post of where it is now. I still have some additional things to do in my craft room to set it up, and I need to make some additional changes clearly to the camera setup to be able to share with you. And so back to what you're watching on the screen, I was struggling with these photos. I'm not sure why I was struggling so much this day, but the cats were not behaving, and I had just finished trying to set the craft room up, and I could not match the photos to the day of the week that things happened. And I think it had something to do with it had been almost a whole week in between doing the edit size resizing and making the collages for the photos versus the day that I printed them out and went ahead and began putting these pages together. So I think it's a better idea to put the photo collages together like closer in time to when I know I'm going to print them out. The other thing that I struggled with on these pages was that I think I picked too many products to use during this week. Like, I think I had almost the whole kit, or at least half of it, plus some additional products that I was thinking of using. And that's not really a good idea. And at least for me. And right there, you saw me place that funny shape. And go ahead. That was one of the first decisions I made because I liked the way it looked. And then later on, I'm going to wish that I had put it on the top of that card instead of the bottom. But I knew not to pull that funny shape up because it's the back of it would leave a mark on the vellum, and then it would have caused me additional problems. And I wanted to change it so that I could use an extra embellishment, but I didn't want the top 4x6 and the bottom 4x6 on this page to have that embellishment in the same spot because I wanted it to be different. And so because of that, I had wished that I had put it on the top left instead of the bottom right. It's just a weird thing that happens in my brain while I'm doing Project Life. The other thing that I did differently this week that I think might have been causing me some problems is that I decided to go across the 2 pages from left to right with the days of the week. So Monday on the left, Tuesday on the right, and then International Women's Day was at the bottom left, which was on, I believe, Sunday at the end of the week, instead of on the bottom right, which would normally have been the end of the week. So the issue became that the days were out of order, and I began to get confused with which day of the week was which messed up how my brain was, how I usually do it. Every week I do this almost exactly the same way. And this week, for whatever reason, I decided to try something different. And it made it harder and less fun. It made it much less fun. And I cut out at least 10 minutes of fast forwarded video. So it was at least, I think in real life, it would probably be 20 to 30 minutes of time where I just sat staring at the pages to try and understand what to do next. And I left some of it in, and some parts of this video I ended up speeding up all the way to 4 times fast forward because I didn't want to pull it out, because I think it's good that we all know that we're not alone when we're having days that aren't working out well with our craft. And initially I thought maybe I should just not do this, but I very much enjoy this process of putting these pages together, and I enjoy sharing them. But this week it was just not working out well. And if you've been paying attention to the screen while I've been telling you what's going on during this week, you'll see that these photographs were already cut down to 3x4 size, but for whatever reason, they were not fitting in the pockets this week. I had to cut them down to 2 3/4 wide by less than 4, and they just were not fitting in the pockets. So I had to cut each one 2 or 3 times, and that was so frustrating. But finally, almost an hour into creating this spread, I finally got the photos in order, and now I'm futzing around with the products that I've picked. In that bottom left corner, I picked a vellum 4x6 card with an expression about strong women, or here's 2 strong women, may we know them, may we raise them. And then I was using the watercolor pieces in this kit, but I also wanted to use those vellum 3x4 cards with the squares on them. And so I make a bunch of changes back and forth. And then here I was looking at that 6x8 calendar page, and I wanted it looked plain with the watercolor pages and all of the colors in the kit. And so I wanted to put some color with it, and eventually I will decide to do so. And so I had grabbed some washi tape out to try and put on those white spots. And here you just saw me remove the watercolor vellum pieces and substitute in these 3x4 vellum pieces with the squares. And I think initially I was going to print out some journaling to put on the squares and just put them wherever they would fit. And so they were on top of the photos where I was going to talk about them. And then I realized there's too many photos in the spread, and it doesn't look right for them to be on top of the photos with the journaling on top. It made it look too busy and less peaceful. And eventually I take out that photo that's on the middle left. I take that one out. And then on the right hand side, on the bottom middle photo, I take that out because that photo's not even from this week. And there at the bottom, I put another vellum card behind the quote about women. And eventually later I changed my mind on that one too. And so here I'm rearranging pages again, or the cards again. And I'm going to do that a bunch of times because I can't make the decision. And also this video is very choppy because I had to cut out a bunch of footage where I was futzing around with the camera as well. So eventually I think I got, so there you see that photo is gone. And now I've got all 4 of those cards that match. And I think this is the point where I decide I need something on top of them because now the journaling is going to be behind them and it will make it look softer, less stark. And I won't need to cut up any of the watercolor pages or the packaging for this page to do to make my own journal cards, make decorative journal cards. And so I just went to my box where I keep my supplies and ephemera for the month, and I just pulled out all of the pieces that were in there to see what was in there. And these cards from the old Studio Calico kit, I decided that this was a nice week to use those circles. And so I was getting ready to cut out the big circle and use along with these smaller circles. And then I realized, oh wait, there's not enough room for all of the circles. So I can use only the smaller circles, and the words on them go along with what the topics of my photographs and the journaling is going to be. So they'll work together and the colors work together. And so I go and get my one and only paper punch, and it's a 1.5 inch, which fits just right to punch out the circles with no border. So I don't have to do any fussy cutting. I just have to try and get them mostly centered. I'm not going for perfect, but I want it really close. So I want them mostly centered on the circle because they're going to go on top of those squares, just as a decoration across the spread to bring the spread together. And I don't know why it was so hard to get these punched out. It felt like everything about this putting this spread together, it felt like everything was so hard, and I just was not having as much fun as I wanted to have, and I could not make decisions, but I really wanted to play with my supplies and have fun. I really did. And I wanted to use all of the supplies. So you see me just going through things, and I've got a whole mess here, and that was starting to frustrate me. So I had to put things away, and then I hit my head again. But I think I'm still pushing forward. The other problem I was coming across was that as I was putting the spread together, I had to keep going to other areas of the house to pull things out. Like I had to go and get my tweezers from I think they were in my living room. And then I had to go get my craft knife from the dining room. And then I had to go and get the cello tape from my work desk drawer. So I cut all of those things out so that I could, so that the video would not be so long and there's no reason to watch just nothing on the screen moving. So at the bottom there, I was going to use the watercolor 3x4 cards with the lines for the journaling spots. And then I decided not to because I had all these other journaling spots underneath the vellum 3x4 cards. And so you see at the top left, there's that circle. I think there was 6 circles, but I can only use 5 of them on the spread because of the way the photos are collaged in the 3x4 photos together. So I put the photos from each day in a collage on one 3x4 photo, so I wouldn't have more than 1 or 2 photos for each day. And when there was 2 photos, it was something extra like the International Women's Day and scrapbooking, or also my Tuesday step screenshot and the things that I did on Tuesday. So that would be a situation where there's 2 photos. And then on the 5th was the day that I had a evening church event, but I also only had that screenshot for March 5th. So, because I think that was a Wednesday. And so I just made sure I was trying to pull the photos across the spread and make a good representation of what actually happened during the week so that, because that's the point of Project Life, is to just all of the mundane things happening, but I also didn't want every pocket filled with photos. So I did my best to try and pull it all together. So I think at this point, I've got everything set in the pockets where I want it and still futzing around with those watercolor vellum pieces. And this particular one, I tried to put it back there because when I flipped over that calendar card, I had the Be Silly, Be Kind 4x6 journaling spot that I was going to use with my church night, for the journaling with my church night. And so I was like, oh, well, I've got this little I have the pieces originally spread out through the layout, but then I realized that I had taken all of them or almost all of them away, and now it would not make sense to use that card and that funny little piece on my March date card. I do eventually figure it out, but it takes me a little while. And so what I did not like that vellum card at the bottom left to not have any color behind it. And so I went to my stash to see if I could find a piece of solid cardstock that would look nice behind there and match the colors in the kit. And I found this seafoam sort of green teal color that matched almost exactly that 3x4 card in the top left-hand side of the screen there. And so I got that figured out, and that gave me a win that helped me finish the layout because I was ready to give up and pack it all away and just start over another day. And then I figured out that I could pull the watercolor pieces in by making the side of that screenshot for my steps the watercolor vellum paper. So I could pull that back in to the spread and it would look nice there. And then it would not fit in the pocket for whatever reason. I have no idea why. And I wanted to cut off the photo edge of I wanted to cut off the photo edge just like a hair's trim off, and I ended up, when I flipped it over, for sure I cut off the vellum side, and I was like, you know what, it's fine, just keep going. Then I hit my head again, and I'm sorry for the shaky camera, and still had trouble getting it in the pocket. For goodness sake, I had to take everything out. And then after I got it in, I realized, oh, it's hanging over the top too. All of them are hanging over the top, and I could not figure out why, because it's supposed to be 3x4, but it's definitely much smaller than that. And this is an old, I think this particular one is an old Project Life page protector that I cut down to fit in the 9x12 album size, because I'm just trying to use up my stash of that, because I don't intend on doing a 9x12 or a 12x12 for anything else. And then instead of the washi tape, I decide to use that 4x6 card, even though it's smaller than the white cardstock. And I decide to cut that out and put it along the two top edges of that calendar page. And I finally decided, okay, well, I'm going to start adhering down pieces that I know are not going to move anymore, so that I can stop making decisions over and over and over. And so here's where I start doing the taping down of that. Since I had already made the decision, I was going to stick with the decision, and that meant that I could use that 4x6 remnant of the vellum pieces in another week for journal cards, and it would pull some of these colors through to the last couple of weeks in the month. And I think it made it look very much nicer, even though it's not covering the entire, it's not an entire 6x8 sheet. I still think it made it look nice. And there I'm trying to figure out what to do and how to make these flip ups. And what I end up doing was going to get the cello tape. And I thought I had done this wrong, because I do it, and actually, no, I did not do it wrong. I still can't get my brain around this. What I don't want the cello tape on top of the vellum piece. I want it on the back side of the vellum piece, which means it has to go on the front side of the card underneath. And usually when I do it, there's a photo covering it up on the card side. And this time it was just journaling. And so I put it together on this right-hand side of the spread. And then I think, oh, wait, I totally did that wrong. Now I'm going to end up having this gap at the top of my journaling card, and I don't want it there. And then I go back and I start to take one apart, and then I suddenly realize, oh, wait, that's the way it has to be if I don't want the cello tape on top of the vellum piece. And there at the bottom left, you can see I have that circle there, and I want it there because I like the sentiment with the photo and the International Women's Day. But at the top, there's that other embellishment, and I don't think it looks right. It looks too same. And I just end up having to decide not to keep that sixth circle piece. And so there you can see that I took it apart and then immediately had to put it right back together with another cello tape, because I realized that I was wrong about being wrong. And so this is the part that spread up to 4 times speed, because I was just sitting there thinking, and it was so hard. So I had to figure out how to make the flip up on the back side of the Project Life page, and I had to grab an extra piece of cardstock so that it would not go through the card on the other side accidentally. And so I just put that in there so that it would give me a little extra cushion between the card on the other side because I didn't want to take it out and then have to put it back in. And so I have to trim them down a little bit again to make them fit, and it ends up working out. And that one, I had not had enough control over my craft knife, so that I ended up having to cut a wider slit, and you can't tell it on camera, and you can't tell it when until you flip up the vellum piece. And I'm okay with that. I'm not going to, I just decided I'm just going to deal with it and live with it. And I needed another piece of cardstock. And so it was 3 inches wide on my trimmer, but I had to cut 1/8 of an inch off to make it fit in the pocket, and then it still wouldn't fit in the pocket. The corner of it, I think, the bottom corner of it crinkled, and then I put it in there. See, it wouldn't go in the pocket. I had to use my ruler. And then when I got it in there, it wouldn't sit right. So then I have to cut off a little bit of the bottom edge, and then the corner is still crinkled. And I thought, okay, just keep going. We're not stopping. These things happen. And I had to give myself a little pep talk to make myself keep going. But finally, after this was about an hour and a half, I finally got to the point where maybe I can do some journaling. And I forgot to say it at the closing of the video. So if you all will press the like and subscribe buttons, that would let you see more content like this. All right, friends, I am finished with these pages. I got the journaling done. I see that I forgot to stamp the date there, which is what I intended to do when I placed that. So this is just my Sunday picture here on the right, and then the title card from the 2025 Stories by the Month kit. And this is my journaling under here. I used the stickers to divide it. I think I forgot to do it on the last two. This is for Saturday for International Women's Day. So this one says celebrating this. And then there's the International Women's Day one. So that's that whole page. This one is my calendar page from the 2025 calendar that Ali Edwards released. I really like it. I think it looks great. This is for an event called Sisterhood at my church, and I met my friend Shelly there. It was quite nice. And then here I forgot to do the second one in between here. And then my step count for the week. I've got one for every day in March so far, or every week in March so far. This is also from Sisterhood Night. And then Friday and Saturday. So there it is. Okie doke. So those are my March pages in the album. I hope you enjoyed watching me put this together. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye, friends.